Hello friends, it's Candace and welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'm going to be doing the highly requested meaning like 2 or 3 people ask. The highly requested left ear piercing tour. The reason it took so long for me to start filming this video is because my most recent piercing, my flat piercing, I got it February 8th. And what had happened was, after about a month in, it swelled up and I desperately needed to change the bar, blah blah blah. I ended up with a belly ring in my bar because I didn't have any barbells long enough and I couldn't make it to my piercer. And then when my appointment finally came to get it switched out, then unfortunately I got the Canona, so that caused me to have to cancel that appointment. And then lo and behold, once I felt better from the Canona, my piercer was booked out a whole month. So I actually found an old 1/2 inch 14 gauge barbell. So I just popped that in there. So I did have a straight bar in for another month while I was waiting for my appointment. But basically, the reason I was waiting is because I had some old junk jewelry in it, because that's the only thing I had to put in it. And I really should have known better. I probably could have called my piercer and went in ahead of time, but you know, anxiety and stuff, I just didn't think to do that. So here I am though, about 3 months after that piercing, and I'm finally feeling pretty okay about the way my ear looks, so I can give you a proper tour of the ear. Now, another thing I want to note before I get started, first of all, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Leave a comment and let me know anything you'd like to see next. I'm planning on doing a coin slot video very soon. I have a coin slot on both ears. And yeah, just let me know if you're interested in anything else. I'll link my right ear piercing tour right up there. Don't mind my hairline. I just re-dyed my hair. And if you happen to see any blue on my ear, well, any dead skin at all, but in the photo I'm going to show you, if you happen to see any blue in my ear, you know, that's just what happens when you dye your hair freaking bright colors. Your skin gets stained, and yeah, especially with ear piercings, I can't just like scrub it willy-nilly because they'll get irritated. Perhaps I should also say, I'm not making this video to brag at all, but I do prefer yellow gold for my piercings, and I did work really hard to be able to afford the jewelry that I got for myself. I just like to invest in the gold jewelry, and that's all I've spent my money on for the past few years. So don't be jealous. If you want something like this, you can attain it too. I hope you don't think I'm bragging in any way. I feel like I've talked long enough about a whole lot of nothing, so I'm gonna get started talking about my piercings. So I'm really hoping to make this video a little bit shorter than last time. Basically, I'm gonna cut out things where there's a lot of overlap. Obviously with ears, a lot of times things are even on both sides, so I'm just gonna go ahead and circle the few that are the same. So for the first 3 lobes, in terms of healing and pain, I would say exactly the same. My memory is exactly the same on those. For the first lobe, it's the same jewelry as I described in my right ear piercing video. And my 3rd ear lobe, all the rings are exactly the same as they are in the right ear piercing tour, and so is the flower end, the daisy end from BBLA. Another piercing I want to mention is my Helix piercing that is directly under my coin slot. That piercing I got the exact same time as the Helix piercing on my right ear, and I had the exact same healing experience for that too. So if you want to hear about any of those piercings in terms of the pain scale and just to hear my experience, I go a little bit into more detail, you can go ahead and click my right ear piercing tour if you haven't seen that. But I'll go ahead and go on into the jewelry for all the rest of these piercings. The second lobe, I have a little bit different jewelry in than I did in my right ear tour. In this earlobe, I currently have a princess cut diamond clicker from Maria Tash, and I believe this is in 1/4 inch, which is 6.5 millimeter, and it's an 18 gauge. And hanging off of that, I do have chains again, but these ones are a little bit differently. The bottom one is from Pupil Hall, just like my other ear. The other one is a 2-box chain. That's one piece of jewelry, and that is from Buddha Jewelry Organics. And those two are attached a little bit differently as well. They're attached to the top ring in my 3rd lobe piercing. I'll circle it for you. They're just kind of like draped between the two, so it's a little bit more spread out and flat. So I think that's really pretty look. When it comes to the 3rd lobe, the only thing different is I have a different Pupil Hall chain. I have a 3B chain instead of a really short chain. The next piercing I'm going to be talking about is my 4th lobe piercing. Now this piercing I think is pretty rad. I'll go into the pain and everything first. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm pretty sure I pierced this myself and I really couldn't tell you the pain. I just, in a certain state of mind, I don't know, this was years ago and I do not condone piercing yourself at home, but in a certain state of mind, I just had to. Couldn't explain it, couldn't stop myself. It's what happened. I don't really recall the pain. It wasn't that much. Obviously, I was able to do it. I would probably call it like maybe a 3 or 4 out of 10. I won't say it hurts less, but it hurts in a different way when you're doing it yourself. I'd say a piercing definitely hurts less when someone else does it to you because it's able to go faster and everything, but when you're doing the pain on yourself, it doesn't hurt in quite the same way. It's still painful, but since you're inflicting the pain, I can't really explain it. It wasn't too bad, but I would probably avoid piercing myself again just because it's not good. The angle of this piercing might be off, but the thing I did with this that I think is really fun and cool, I put 2 rings going around my ear and into my conch, so it's sort of turning into an orbital piercing since it's going into 2 holes. But instead of an actual conch piercing, it's just a cartilage removal. The piercing is going through my 4th lobe piercing and then going in through the hole in my ear, and it's going back around obviously to the back. The top one there that you see is just a plain seam ring. These rings are both 3/8 of an inch. I'm not sure, I think that's 9 millimeters. And then the one below that I believe is the Mila seam ring from BBLA. This was like one of the first like bigger BBLA purchases that I got, and I thought it was so beautiful. I still think it's beautiful. I have another smaller version in my coin slot on my right ear, and I just think it's so pretty and delicate. I don't know, I can't explain it, I just love how it looks. And I'm not sure if I said they're both 18 gauge, and yeah, and they're seam rings, so they just bend open, they're not clickers. The next 3 piercings up are some of my favorites. They are a triple helix. I'm assuming some people will call them like an auricle piercing. They're just mid-helix piercings, in my opinion, except for a forward helix because it's a completely different ball game. I think all helixes are basically the same. I wouldn't call it an auricle or a high helix. They're just helix piercings, and then they're in whatever location you want to put them in. They're all helix piercings. I think people do say that this location does take a little bit longer to heal. I didn't find that necessarily. I felt like these piercings healed pretty good. Sometimes they still get grumpy with me, but you know, you do your best to baby them and that's all you can do. So the first one I have on the bottom currently has an 18 gauge 1/4 of an inch 6.5 millimeter Maria Tash clicker, and hooked around that through my conch hole, similar to the previous piercing, I have a Pupil Hall chain just going straight through and around to the back of the thing. So if this chain looks a little bit saggy, I probably could have got a more fitted chain. I just haven't currently, and I just think this chain looks pretty good either way. Most of the time I feel like it hangs back, so I think it's pretty good. The next one up, I think this was the first piece of jewelry. I know that ring was the first big piece of jewelry I got from BBLA, but the middle of the 3 is literally the first thing from BBLA I ever got, and it's like so pretty. If you want gold jewelry but you don't want to spend a lot of money, I would highly suggest getting something with texture. This is a hammered disc from BBLA, and the only thing that's different than a flat disc is there's a hammered texture on the top, and the way gold shines, it really makes your ear look blingy, even without, you don't need a diamond, you don't need nothing. You just need a nice shiny piece of gold. That hammered texture really reflects light, and it's so pretty, and I really love just plain gold, even with no stones in it. It's one of my favorite looks. And honestly, I feel like they make a lot of variety. Any manufacturer who makes gold jewelry, there's usually a lot of selections of just plain gold with no stones in it at all. And some of my favorite pieces of jewelry have no stones in it. For example, the hammer disc and that Mila seam ring. They are some of my favorites. Ugh, ugh. I love jewelry. Okay, the next one up is a little bit boring. Oh, I forgot to say these two are flatback labrettes, and they are threadless labrettes. But this one, it's a little bit boring because I just changed some of my jewelry around because I get bored a lot. So this is, once again, from BVLA, the bead swirl end, and I did move it from my right ear to my left ear. I'm sorry, I really should have thought ahead before I filmed this, but my jewelry is not at my home with me right now. It's at my boyfriend's house, so I couldn't change it for you, and I'm sorry about that. But this is just what's in my ear right now. If you'd like a whole jewelry collection, just leave a comment down below. I can surely do that. I'll just have to clean it up and like organize everything in my jewelry box. Or let me know if you'd like me to change some of my ends to show you them in my ears. Maybe that could be fun. Probably a lot of work. My nails are way too long for functional. My nails are way too long for really functional things right now, but I could probably manage for you guys. Love you guys. Oh wait, half heart. Love you guys. Anyway, so yes, that one is once again the bead swirl that I had on my right ear. These, I would say they were all the same. Obviously, I guess I would have to say that I don't know which one was last. I think the top one was last. So it's hard to tell if it's because it's a little bit higher up. Maybe it's going through a little more cartilage. I honestly do think the higher one is going through more cartilage. So that could make sense. So that could make sense for why it hurt a little bit more. I would say that these Helix piercings ranged anywhere from about a 3 to a 4, maybe. I feel like I'm being generous in terms of giving it more pain than it probably was. It's not that bad. You know, typical Helix piercing, really pinchy. And then obviously anytime you get more than one piercing at a time, it's going to hurt more and more, and the whole area is just going to hurt generally a lot more than if you just get one piercing. If you get inflamed easily, I don't care what kind of discount you're getting, I highly suggest just getting one piercing at a time, and if you're getting two, make them far apart so they're not inflaming each other. That's just my little advice there. The next piercing up, I'll just circle it here. This is the Helix piercing that matches the one in my right ear. As I said, you can watch my right ear piercing video for the experience and pain. But other than that, the jewelry that's currently in this right now is from Maria Tash, and it is a 6.5 millimeter, which is 1/4 of an inch, plain ring, and it has 2 chains on it. So I really liked that. I feel like it filled the space between that original Helix piercing and the 3 I got down below, and it also really fit nicely underneath my coin slot. Yes, it's only the very bottom ring there that is through an actual piercing hole, like a puncture wound type thing, and then the rest of those rings are for a coin slot. The next one up is my flat piercing. So this one is my most recent piece of jewelry that I purchased. The piece of jewelry that's currently in it is a cherry blossom from BVLA, and the outer petals are turquoise, and the inner stone is a gray sapphire. And I had this custom ordered for my piercer. Basically, yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I'm so glad I bought it. It's not actually meant for this area. I bought it for another piercing, but the jewelry that I bought for my flat piercing was a little bit big for the irritation that I had been experiencing during the healing, so I'm going to leave this little guy in there for the duration of the healing, or at least a major duration of the healing, just so my flat piercing can actually heal without this big piece of jewelry hanging and swiveling about. The last piercing I'm going to be able to talk about here is my Tragus piercing. Now, I mentioned in my last video that I had a Tragus piercing on my right ear, but I had to retire it. I'm having similar issues with this piercing where it just doesn't seem to want to heal, and it's just constantly irritated with me. I don't know what to do, but I'm trying. I don't want to give up on this one, and I would like to re-pierce my right one, but so excuse any irritation you may see. I'll try to have it cleaned up in a nice angle so you don't gotta look at a crusty, ugly ear. Oh, I always forget. The earring in my flat is a threaded 14 gauge end. With these custom order ones, they're a lot more expensive because they're like bigger endeavors and they're obviously made to order. So they're a little more expensive, so because of that, I wanted to make sure it was a threaded piece. I didn't want a pin to accidentally fall off or anything on these like bigger, heavier pieces of jewelry. Not that, like, if a pin did fall off, BBLA does have a guarantee on their jewelry. You can just take it back to your piercer and have them send it out to BBLA and they'll fix it for you. It should be at no charge, I think, for the lifetime of the jewelry, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, so that one is a 14 gauge threaded end. I'm pretty sure I forgot to say the pain scale. I wouldn't say that the flat piercing was too bad. I would say maybe this one is a 4 out of 10, just because it was a little bit more painful than I expected. It's kind of uncomfortable. The piercer had to like bend my ear forward a little bit to kind of like screw the balls on. So in general, that process was slightly more painful than some of the other piercings I've gotten. So this one I would say was a solid 4 out of 10, which I don't think is too bad. And then actually moving on to my Tragus piercing. This is a 16 gauge threadless post, and the end I have on there is once again from BBLA. I never know how to pronounce this. This jewelry is a bezel set Kabachan. Listen, I don't think I even pronounce it right when I read it in my head, and I'm just terrible at pronouncing things, so I'm sorry. Kabachan. Anyway, but yes, it is with a turquoise stone, so it's just a bezel set jewelry, basically. Kabachan. I don't know how to pronounce it. Maybe I should Google it. Pronunciation. How do you make it sound?
Kabachan.
Kabachan. Okay. I think in my head I always pronounced it like Kakaban or something. Couldn't tell you why. But yeah, that is a
Kabachan.
bezel set Kabachan. Turquoise end from BBLA. It's definitely very beautiful, and I really want to keep more turquoise in my ears. I want to get a little bit more blue in there. Anyway, I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. I'm sorry if this one was a little bit lackluster compared to my right ear piercing. I didn't want it to be extremely repetitive, like I said. But stay tuned for the next video where I'm talking about my own piercings. I'm definitely going to be sitting down to record a video about one or both of my coin slots. The healing experiences were definitely different for each of them, so maybe let me know down below if you'd like 2 separate videos or one really long video where I go into details on both. I'm trying to steer away from really longer videos because I haven't been wanting to run out of footage, so then I film for like an hour or more, and then obviously I'm talking the whole time, so I can only get it down to like 44 minutes or something, which is ridiculous. So I've been trying to film shorter videos, so that's why I was thinking I would split them up. That's also another reason why I split this video up into right ear and left ear, and I'll probably do nose separate, even though there's not much going on in the nose. Please subscribe if you like this video. Don't forget to like and comment. Let me know anything. What was your favorite piece of jewelry from this ear? Thank you so much for watching this video. I love you. See you in the next one. Bye! So pumped. I got my 2nd dose today. And I'm so achy. My body just hurts. But I felt the same way after the 1st dose, so